Today on Locked On Red Wings, should Detroit exploit Carolina's goalie situation? And Kreider and Trouba are on the block yet again. Do the Red Wings make a move, and does it go through this time?
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. Scotty's host over at Locked On Tigers as well, and a freelance journalist for the Detroit News, while I am the color commentator for Oakland University D1 Men's Hockey. Scotty, happy Wednesday, buddy, and day before Thanksgiving. Biggest bar night of the year. Will you be going out to celebrate? He's pleading the fifth. He's pleading the fifth right here.
I'm going up north with the family, so not my usual scenes, but I'm sure we'll find something to do up there.
Well, I did the bar thing one time, and I was like, this is chaos, and I never did it again. So I'm going to stay at home. I'm going to watch the Wings because I have a game to recap for the people while you're off frolicking with your family. So that's what I'll be doing Wednesday night.
Frolicking with your family.
Frolicking with your family.
That's good alliteration there. It's going to be a lot of hours in the car. I'm not looking forward to that part of it, but it'll be fun.
Yeah, and then for today's episode, we got some trade market news to talk about, just kind of exploring hypotheticals. Kevin Weeks reported that with Kochetkov and Frederik Andersen injured, that they are searching the goalie market for a option, necessarily through free agency or trade. It wasn't necessarily specified. But one thing we know is Red Wings have 4 goalies with NHL experience in their system right now. And, if they took advantage of the Utah thing, so maybe they take advantage of the Carolina situation here. Colorado also having huge goalie woes, so maybe they're an option. And then also, report came out that New York is looking to shake up their core. Apparently, they're not happy enough with their 600-point percentage start to the season. God forbid. So they're looking to shake up their core. Notably, Trouba, who we've spoken a lot about over this summer, is supposedly available, as well as Chris Kreider, among others. So we'll talk about if the Red Wings should take any interest in those guys being available in segment 2. But before we get to that, I got to let you guys know today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com today to get started. Scotty, let's lead off with the Carolina conversation here. Obviously, as I'm sure many people are aware, their goaltending situation right now is up in the air. Kochetkov is injured with a concussion. He's out until at least the 29th, so just a few more days. But his season thus far hasn't been great. He's got a sub-900 save percentage, and I know save percentages overall are floating around 900 this year, but he's still flirting with below league average. Frederik Andersen was very good up until he once again did his pretty annual dance with the IR, and he's out until at least January 25th with a knee injury. So Carolina is reportedly out on the market for a goalie. And with Husso and Campbell in the AHL, with Talbot and Lyon here in the NHL, does it make sense for the Red Wings to try and exploit that desperation that Carolina may have?
Yeah. It's honestly, this question really just comes down to how you feel about the rest of the season for the Wings, right? I mean, if you are still of the belief that the Red Wings can turn this thing around and be, competitive and be in the thick of things come beyond the trade deadline, then no, you hold your cards and you got a good contract. You have 2 goalies that are playing well, that are both cheap for the team, and you hold on to them and you see what you can do going forward. But if you think this is a lost season and it's just like a kind of a ticking time bomb and they're going to be toward the bottom of the division, then you might as well entertain it.
Yeah, and I mean, the only guy obviously Sebastian Cossa, absolutely non-negotiable. He's not in the conversation. So I'm only talking about the goalies with NHL experience right now. I mean, Talbot, I would say don't touch. He's playing unbelievable right now. I would lean towards not, trading Lyon, but he's on such a team-friendly contract. He and Jack Campbell would be your easiest to move with Carolina's cap situation, because that's the biggest hurdle. Carolina is actually projected to be over the cap right now, and same thing with Colorado, right? We want to wrap Colorado into this conversation. Their goaltending woes have been even worse, not injury-wise, but just the performances they've been getting from their goaltending has been very bad so far through this season. And if you want to take advantage of two teams, you also got to look at the situation they have, and those are two teams that are against the cap, if not projected to be a little bit over at the moment. So it would make the most sense to move a goaltender that's going to be the least difficult to maneuver around. And if you're Carolina and if you're Colorado and you're looking at Lyon versus Campbell, you'd rather take Lyon, right? Because he's on a very team-friendly deal and he's performing very well, especially if you're Carolina, who does a nice job of protecting and insulating their goaltenders. I know it's not as well. Like in the last couple of years, they've kind of transitioned to be a little bit more offensive, a little less defensive, but they're still a very good defensive team too. I mean, Lyon would be a perfect situation for them. I don't want to give up Lyon, but with all these goalies in the system, like, you could probably get the most back in trading away Alex Lyon. I'm not endorsing trading away Alex Lyon because I want him on the Red Wings, but if you're looking to maximize your return, he'd be the guy you want to get, you'd want to trade away and still have a serviceable.
You think you'd get more for Lyon than Talbot?
I'm not trading Talbot. That's the thing. I'm talking of the goaltenders I'm willing to trade. Talbot, you need here to be with Kosa next year, assuming, of course, Kosa comes up, just so he has that veteran presence to learn from at the NHL level and to catch him some slack if he runs into trouble. For me, if like Alex Lyon's the one I'd want to trade away the least, but the one you'd get the most for. I think the ideal situation for the Red Wings, though, Scotty, would be this is your Husso solution. I mean, Ville Husso is a guy making $4.7 million who wants to, another opportunity at the NHL level. He's playing really well in Grand Rapids. Carolina would be the perfect team for him to go to and, rejuvenate his career. On the last year of a contract, that's a team that's going to play really well in front of him. But again, the biggest hurdle is he's paid $4.7 million. So how do you make that trade work?
Yeah, you're going to have to eat some money if you want to move Husso. I don't disagree with you. I think in a perfect world, you do trade Husso. I think that certainly makes a lot of sense from the Wings' perspective. I just don't know how many other teams out there are chomping at the bit to bring in Husso. Like, yes,
exactly
it would be. Yeah. It would say what? I
said that's exactly it. Yeah.
Right. Like, yes, there are teams that need goalies, but there's 30 other teams too that also have goalies that they could trade. It's not like this is. Other teams are thinking, oh, we have to make a trade with the Red Wings work. So, like, I am much more of the belief that if this season goes off the rails and they really do plummet, which I'm not saying is or isn't happening, I'm just saying if that were to happen, I think Talbot's gone by the deadline. I think that just is, like, that might be your most valuable asset at the deadline. And again, that's only if the season is catastrophically, like, bad and they just are not a very good hockey team and they're going to be picking in the top 7 or whatever. But I think this early, I'm with you that I would not trade your best goaltender this early in the season. I think that's a can you can kick down the road and have that debate much more seriously once you get closer to the trade deadline, because people will always need goalies. Like, it's great that there are teams that are already trying to get goalie help this early, and that puts a team like the Wings that have a ton of goalie depth in a good position to make a move potentially. But, like, it's not like there's not going to be teams that still want goalies at the trade deadline. So I think that's I think the Talbot can is one you can kick down the road. I think I don't know how much of a market Husso has. Like, even if you eat almost all of the money, like, I'm not sure how much of a market he has, to be honest. He's barely played the last year and a half. Like, I feel like there are probably better options for teams that want a surefire solution to their goalie situation out there. So I'm not sure despite the fact that the Wings have a billion goalies, I'm not sure anything really lines up weirdly.
Yeah, and I mean, it would be, okay, the cheap option for Carolina to acquire, the cheapest option would be Jack Campbell, but I don't think any team right now is looking to take a flyer on Campbell, no matter the desperation. Husso would be the second best option price-wise, because you'd be able to maybe not even give up anything just because of the whole retention situation. And he's a goalie that has seen NHL success, but again, health is a question.
Right.
Lyon is the best option because, again, bang for your buck, you'd have to give up the most for him, but he's the easiest to plug and play if you're any team. I disagree with you, though, that Cam Talbot would be a player traded away at the deadline just simply because he's not a rental. Like, I know teams sometimes trade for guys who aren't rentals, but, I mean, this is a guy that you acquired at the deadline. He's going to have to be on your team next year, and he'll be 38. So I'm not sure. I feel like next year would be more of that conversation, but I don't know. There's no simple solution here, but, like, the Red Wings, who seem to have a hoarding of goalies, it seems like you can definitely get a deal done, maintain Talbot, hopefully Lyon too, but like if you got to, like, you can call Husso back up and he can be your backup, and hopefully then you're again banking on him finally being back to what we saw in season 1 when he was good. But like they have so many goalies that it seems like you're primed, especially if you can trade Husso. That cap is cleared. You get that off the books a little bit earlier. He'd come off the books at the end of the month or end of the year anyways. But it just seems like you're primed and in a perfect position to help a team and then help yourself by getting a pick, maybe a low level. I don't even know if a low level prospect you'd get back for Husso or Campbell, but like get something back. And you'd also clear up some of that logjam you have in the AHL. Like, it seems like this is a prime opportunity with both Carolina and Colorado to have a win-win situation for both these teams who both have a need, so to speak. I don't know. The solution isn't as simple as trade Olli Maatta to Utah like it was when they made that deal. But, like, there seems like there's an opportunity here for the Red Wings to capitalize on.
Yeah, there certainly is. I know we got to get to a break here. There is an opportunity to capitalize on for sure. Like I said, I mean, you are a team that has a ton of goalies, way more than you need, and there are people out there that want goalies. So, yes, they're in a position where they absolutely can make a move. I mean, I know this isn't strictly a Talbot conversation, but I think the opposite of you. Like, I think the fact that he's not a rental makes him more valuable and more likely to get moved, because rentals are usually, unless you're talking about the high end players, are cheaper. You know, here's a low end pick and just like you can get them off, the team, whatever. I think the fact that you can get a potentially year and a half of Cam Talbot and how well he's playing and how well he's played. He played well for LA last year too. It's not like this is an outlier. I think that would honestly make him even more valuable, which means the Wings should trade him even more so, because they'd get more out of him now than they would waiting a year and trading him at the deadline next year. But we don't have to go down that rabbit hole. It's not really like the focus of the conversation. I think that your point is, all of your points are valid, and I think that the moving of a goalie to one of those teams for anything makes sense for the Wings. It's just a matter of how much money do you want to eat for Husso, or are you willing to let go of Alex Lyon?
Yeah. Anyways, let's do a quick break. When we return, we'll talk about the New York Rangers situation, because that's also kind of interesting as well. Stay tuned to segment 2 of Locked On Red Wings. If you're a renter, I'd start taking advantage of Built if I were you. Here's the thing. We earn points on groceries, travel, and practically everything else we buy. But we should also be earning points on rent, one of our biggest monthly expenses. Built changed the game by letting renters earn high-value points on rent and around their neighborhood. There's no cost to join Built, and as a member, you'll earn valuable points on rent and on your everyday spending. Built points can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, and even the ones you haven't heard of. There are over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties around the world you can redeem your Built points towards. Points can be redeemed towards a future rent payment and unique experiences that only Built members can access. So if you're not earning points on rent, my question is, why not? Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNHL. That's JOINBILT.com/LockedOnNHL. Make sure to use our URL so they know we sent you. Joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNHL to start earning points on your payments today. Also got to talk to you guys today about Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets on your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals and great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concert, comedy, theater, and so much more. And toggle the all-in pricing feature to see the totals up front so you don't get any of those surprise fees at checkouts that other ticket vendors may hide. Get a panoramic view from your seat before you buy with those seat views, and you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, the New York Rangers got shellacked the other day by the St. Louis Blues. I'm pretty proud of myself. I took the St. Louis Blues, their first game under Jim Montgomery, and I was like, I got a feeling that new coach bump is going to get them. Got them at plus odds. Won the bet. So the New York Rangers aren't very pleased with how the season is progressing for last year's President's Trophy winners, and they're trying to say that we are going to shake our core up. We need a change. They're 12-7-1, Scotty. They are fourth in the Metro. The Metro is very competitive this year, but they're 12-7-1, and they're like, that's not good enough. Crazy. And what must be nice to be so privileged. But they notably
There's a lot
are
of Rangers fans that are like, that's rich coming from 25 straight years of postseason hockey over there. But
we live in a world of what have you done for me lately, and we haven't even made the playoffs since 17.
I agree with you.
But they notably have placed, or at least I should say reportedly have placed, Chris Kreider and Jacob Trouba amongst others, but those were the two that were named on the trade block. Now, Jacob Trouba is no stranger to this show. It was rumored that he was being traded to the Red Wings just prior to the free agency last year, and it did not happen. He apparently, word had gotten out, he got upset, he denied the trade, and then whether or not all that is true is still hearsay, but those are the reports that we had been hearing. And now, again, they're reportedly shopping him. Now, he does still have a 15 no trade list, which Detroit, I would imagine, is probably on it. So he'd have to waive it if he got traded to Detroit. But there are 15 teams he doesn't. And I believe that Chris Kreider has a modified no trade clause as well. Kreider's got 9 goals, no assists through 19 games. So he's scoring goals. He's not getting any assists. Jacob Trouba is still one of their number one defensemen, top line defensemen on that New York Rangers team, but he's not necessarily as good as he once was. The question becomes, is it worth the Red Wings taking a flyer on either of those players?
Well, it's the same conversation as goaltending, but the opposite, right? Like if you think the season is a lost cause, then no, it does not make any sense to go buy and acquire talent. But if you think that this can be righted and you think that maybe Trouba is the guy that they need to get them over the hump and to be the guy that can help the Wings kind of straighten everything out, then you hold on to your goalies and you trade for him. Like it really is. I don't see the Wings doing anything that brash this early because we just don't know. They could be really bad, or they could figure it out and be in the mix. Like they still are, within a few points of some really good teams somehow. So it's weird. I don't really expect the Wings to be too active at this point. I think the goalie conversation makes a lot more sense just because they have so many of them. But I really can't see the Wings certainly not buying, in November.
Well, and see, here's the thing, too. I mean, it really depends on how desperate you are. I don't think Steve Yzerman feels desperation whatsoever. I think I mentioned the other day that I think I'm starting to lean more and more that the plan is what the plan always was, and it's wait for the youth. And when the youth is finally producing, that's when we'll make the playoffs. I think that's the mindset. Not that I agree with it, but I have a feeling that that's where the Yzerman is at right now. Does Chris Kreider or does Jacob Trouba on this roster make this team immediately better? I think that's true. But I think that the other things at play make these just not smart decisions by the Red Wings. Chris Kreider is a left wing, which is a position of need for the Red Wings, right? Like we have right wings playing the left wing right now. But Chris Kreider is 33 years old, and he still has another 2 years after this season at $6.5 million. Now, the Red Wings will have the cap space to pay that next year and the year after as of right now. But this season, they only have $3.5 million in cap space, and that flexes depending on if Husso's up in the NHL or not at any given moment. So, like, you'd have to get salary retained unless you move out a contract in that trade for a guy who's 33 years old, making $6.5 million. Jacob Trouba is, again, an instant upgrade on your right side. I think that's the reason why the Red Wings wanted him on the right side in the offseason, because he makes your second right side much more better. It makes it better. I don't want to say much better, but it makes it better. It's a huge upgrade over Petrie at the very least. He's a 6'3", 212 right shot defenseman who's 30 years old. Obviously, there's a stigma around him, around his dirty plays. There is a little bit of that. There is truth to that for sure. But he's also got another year at $8 million. And he'd probably have to wait his no trade list to come to Detroit, which I'm not sure he'd be willing to do because he's been very clear that he wants to stay in New York, which is, part of the reason when we heard those reports and the breakdowns is part of the reason why is because he was like, I don't want to leave. So, I mean, again, both these players, I think, would be instant upgrades on this roster, but I don't think in the long term it's necessarily worth it to make that deal unless you get like incredible amount of retention back, or else you're kind of just doing like the Jeff Petrie thing again. Now, granted, Trouba's younger and better than Petrie when you acquired him, but you'd then have 2 years on a slightly bloated contract that you'd have to work around. I don't see with their age it being the right move at this time. In the offseason, you could have convinced me, but we didn't know what the salary cap was going to look like. Seider and Raymond still weren't signed, and I was under the assumption, at the time that they were going to come in a little cheaper. Not that they're getting overpaid. Like looking at it now, looking at the comparables, I realized I was coming in too low at the time. Sure. But with the Red Wings, knowing what the Red Wings salary cap situation is now, and with their age, I just don't think it makes much sense.
Yeah, I agree. I'm pretty much lockstep with you. I really don't think that the Wings are in a position where they're going to do anything drastic. I think there's a chance they might at some point this season, just, not in November.
Yeah, I mean, this is already a top 10 oldest team in the NHL. And, I mean, take Trouba being 30 would actually kind of probably bring that average age down, but Kreider definitely wouldn't. So That's where I stand, and that's where we'll leave it, I suppose. Sure. So with that being said, let's move on to segment 3, and we'll talk about the Calgary Flames because we got that game tomorrow, or today by the time you're listening, on Locked On Red Wings. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-plays, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Scotty, on Sunday, I made a couple of moneyline bets on some NFL games around the league. Notably, I took the Commanders to beat the Dallas Cowboys. And wouldn't you have it, I was really excited to see that fantastic play by Jaden Daniels at the end of regulation to get the team within 1 point of tying it and forcing overtime, just for them to miss the extra point. But I won. I think I went 2 for 3 on my moneyline bets on that day overall. So I made money using FanDuel. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. All right, Scotty. Calgary Flames are coming in hot, pun intended. They are near the top, if not the top. They're second place in the Pacific Division. They've started 12-7-3, shocking the world, it seems, with how good they've started the year. Are they real? What's the deal with the Calgary Flames?
We weren't super low on them going into the year. I mean, we weren't high on them, but they certainly have exceeded expectations here. Like you said, 12-7-3. They're 6-2-2 in their last 10. Not a very high scoring offense. Most of their team offensive production is honestly down with the Wings. They're 22nd in goals scored a game. The Wings are 27th. They're towards the bottom in a lot of offensive stats. Their PK is 26th. Their power play is 18th. So special teams, bottom half of the NHL. This team has gotten its production from goal prevention. They are in the top 10 in the league in goals against a game, and they are 5th in the NHL in team save percentage so far this season. So for a Red Wings team that has struggled to gel offensively and put the puck in the back of the net, this is going to be a task, at least.
Yeah, and I mean, I was looking at the analytics for this team going into this episode, and they are kind of in middle of the pack on everything analytically. I know you just broke it down there, but special teams the same. I think they're bottom 10 in both power play, if not middle of the pack in both power play and penalty kill. Yeah. So, like, granted, your penalty kill is worse in the league, although you went 3 for 3 against the Islanders. So, yeah, hey, you take those W's when you can get them. But, I mean, I think this is a team that is playing really, really hot hockey right now, and they're getting production from across the lineup. No one on their team is sniffing a point per game right now. Their leading point getter is Rasmus Andersson at 13 points in 22 games, but their production is coming from everywhere. You got Coronado with 10 points, Kuzmenko with 10 points, Backlund with 10, Zari with 11, Weegar with 12, Huberto with 12, Kadri with 12, 13 for Anderson. Like, where the Red Wings are super top-heavy with Larkin and Raymond, it's everyone on the Calgary Flames who are contributing to this success they've had, and they're riding, like you said, pretty good goal prevention metrics, I think mostly carried by their goaltending, because Wolf has been phenomenal so far this season. He's got a .921 save percentage. He's up there with Cam Talbot,
he's at
top of the league.
920, man.
Yeah, he's been absolutely incredible. So it's like timely scoring. It's scoring from everywhere. It's not a lot of scoring, but it's timely scoring from everywhere, and really good goal prevention from, namely, Dustin Wolf, that is carrying them through these wins. Is it sustainable? I don't think so. I think the Calgary Flames will cool off, and eventually they'll find their level, kind of like the Detroit Red Wings last year. But right now, this is a team that the Red Wings can't underestimate. Thankfully, this is at LCA, so you got home ice advantage, and take advantage.
Yeah, I agree. So this is kind of a weird one betting-wise, where right now, at least at the time of this recording, both of them are minus money. The Wings are heavier favorites, but they are both minus money. So not a ton there. You know, public opinion and the books are kind of meh, like not really sure what to make of this game either. I think that this is an important win for the Wings, as important as a game on November 27th can be, right? Like, you're trying to prove that you are that this season is not just completely over and you can play yourself back into it. And this is not a bad Flames team that, as we just talked about, has gotten off to a really good start. And I think that a win here would go a long way in public perception of what the Wings are. Because I think lately it's just kind of been like, you know, they can maybe steal some points against bad teams.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately for the Red Wings right now, with the way they are, every game matters. Every single one of them. Like, you didn't get off to a good enough start in October. You really don't have much leeway, especially you're lucky that the Atlantic Division is as close as it is, or I should say the entire wild card race is as close as it is right now, that you're not completely out of it already. You're one game below 500 point percentage. I mean, you got to take this serious. You got to try to get the win. That's the bottom line.
Absolutely.
Scotty, any final thoughts?
I don't think so, man.
All right.
We ball.
We do ball. We'll be back with a new episode tomorrow. Me solo, because Scotty will be somewhere. Really, I don't really know. He just said
literally like the tip of the Lower Peninsula. It's a hike.
All right. So you'll get me rambling at the microphone and in the webcam for 30 straight minutes about the Red Wings' hopeful win. Hopefully it's good rambling, not bad rambling. Stay tuned. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.